So before we begin, I would like to apologize profusely because last time I talked over a quack sound effect. It occurs anytime you try to select something on the menu that you can't. It's a quack, and that's the best thing, and I completely ignored it because I'm a fool and horrible. I hope you can forgive me for my horrible crime. Anyway, last time on Suikoden, we were asked to come here to Rockland because Craze really wants us to collect some taxes from this guy. Well, the guy that this guy's mentioning. Not the random man standing in front of the town. No, it's Grady. We gotta go find Grady. And from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like people really care for Grady, if the guy at the front of the town and this lady are to be believed. Though, quite frankly, that's really not surprising. I mean, we've already met Craze and Kanan, and they're both awful, so yeah, I kind of expect Grady to be just as bad. And not only that, Rockland's not even that far from Gregminster. It's one of the closest towns to it, but they're far enough where they don't really have any benefits from the Emperor. So, yeah, things are great in Gregminster for the most part, but as if I needed another reason to hate Kanan, he's preventing us from having tea! This is an actual crime, and I'll never forgive Kanan for it. Where was I? Oh yeah, Gregminster is okay, but it's not really supporting anyone else outside of it. Also, I love that somehow this man is talking to Kanan, who isn't even on screen. I like to imagine he's just like in Mir's pocket, just shouting at passerbys. That seems like something he'd do. So anyway, this guy right here's got a unique sprite. It's Marco, and he's got a minigame for us. Hello, and welcome back to Smite TV. So, this is the cup minigame. You can bet 100 bits, and it's actually fairly easy to follow this. That being said, though, yes, this is the money grinding spot I was talking about earlier. But, 100 bits really isn't that much money, and the game itself is so slow, so how could this be a good money grinding spot? Well, up your bet, and the cups go a bit faster. It's still possible to follow them, but it's definitely a little more difficult. Still though, 1,000 bits isn't that much either, so we're gonna want to go for the big bits. Of course, betting 10,000 bits is impossible at first because you don't have that kind of pocket money, and when you do have enough pocket money, that happens. Now, I thought it went to the middle, but no, it went to the right. Now, you might be wondering, how was I able to guess that? Well, it's because I didn't. There's actually a pattern to this. Now, the pattern varies from game to game, so this one might not work for you. However, the pattern is actually consistent between all three difficulties. So, if you play it 10 or 15 times or whatever have you, then leave, save, quit the game, whatever, and then come back, the pattern will be the same. So you can play the game on the easiest mode, it won't get you much money, but if you write the pattern down, then you can just use those when you want to play the highest difficulty. Which, I used to be able to kind of follow it on the highest difficulty, so I didn't need it, but yeah, not really anymore. My eyesight shouldn't be shot, I'm not that old, but it's not as good as it was when I was a lowly teen. But anyway, yeah, I did actually have to rewrite the notes because I actually changed ISOs between the first time I grinded and this time, due to the fact that the game just kept crashing on the Magician's Isle, so I had to change things around. So if you're wondering what that little tiny black border was about, and it's still here for this episode, I start cutting it out in the next one, yeah, that's because I changed versions, and for some reason, that's the hang-up this version of the ISO gets. I don't know why, but whatever, I'll accept it. This game was a pain in the ass to get running in the first place, and it's not perfect still. It's better than it was before. You probably noticed the shadows aren't quite shadows. They're like squished and super pixelated versions of the characters' sprites. They're not like completely shaded black or anything. That was actually worse before, because it was like a squished high-res version of the sprites, and it looked horrendous. So yeah, this game was a major pain to get running. So just FYI, if for some reason this stops forever, I probably hit another snag. Anyway, we've been here long enough, so I'm just gonna skip the rest of this. You don't need to watch this. It goes on for like 7 minutes, I think. So since we've finished, I would just like to mention, I do love the fact that every time you successfully do that, it's just the word big hit flashes up on screen. That's pretty great. So anyway, let's continue talking to the townspeople about how much it sucks at Rockland. Look, buddy, I don't have all the answers. I'm sorry. He seemed nice enough. I like Barbarossa. It's just everyone else that's the problem. So we can just leave it at that forever, right? Alright, we definitely want to buy an escape talisman. Just FYI, we do get one in the next dungeon, and we won't even need it, but the escape talisman allows you to just teleport to the start of a dungeon. It's very useful. That being said, though, you definitely want to look at it in the shop, for similar reasons to the wing shoes that I pointed out in the last episode. Also, child abuse. Oh, geez. Okay, kid. Well, I don't know why you would rat out the bandits. You're not gonna get a reward for it, trust me. Basically, everybody in the Empire is just a bunch of jerks. Yeah, while that man mentions a weapon, we still haven't run across any place to sharpen our weapons. There is actually one in the town we can reach, so if you're desperate, you can go sharpen your weapons right now. And if this is your first time playing, I would suggest doing that. But I don't need to, it's not entirely necessary. Yeah, I don't need to, so we'll be doing that when we actually run across the weapon shop. Blacksmith, that's what it's called. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's read this one. Oh, geez. All these graves are really depressing. That's a horrible song. Oh, now that's actually an interesting one. I wonder why that one mentioned Clive by name. Seems weird to just give a random NPC a name. Wonder what that's about. Well, there's a treasure chest over there, so I would like that. Well, what Kanan lacks in bite, he does make up for in bark. Lots and lots of bark. They can't hear us from here, can they? Please, come in. Would you accept bribes? We can't bribe you either, actually. Okay, so this scene's fairly simple. We're just gonna talk about what we're gonna do to get those taxes. So I would like to take a quick moment to talk about Kanan, because he actually reminds me of a character in Water Margin. I have an exact quote. This is actually from the book. So he reminds me of an idler named Fuan nicknamed Stinking Dickhead. Yes, that is actually his nickname. Oh, that's pretty great, right? But anyway, yeah, Fu-On is like the assistant to a character named Master Gao, who is an asshole, which is why I'm reminded of Fu-On, because, of course, Craze is an asshole, but then there is a man who is worse than him, and reality itself reminds you that, yes, this person is garbage. If you're wondering, Fu-On basically convinces Master Gao to basically get rid of the wife, or a man named Lin Chong, because Master Gao has a crush on Lin Chong's wife. I'll talk more about Lin Chong later, because that's kind of got more with stuff that happens later on in Suikoden, and I don't want to spoil that stuff yet. But yeah, it's mainly the nickname that reminds me of Kanan, but like, thematically they are kind of similar. They are both characters that are the lowest of the low. Yeah, I know, but there's a treasure chest that way, and I want it. Alas, we can't go get it. Oh well. So yes, we have to go to Mount Saifu and capture some bandits because they've been taking the tax money. Not to say it seems like Grady's any better with it, but we've got to complete this job, so let's get going. Also, I really wish this is what the entire dungeon looked like. Because, you know, it's a mountain, and we're supposed to be climbing up it, but we're gonna be inside of the mountain for most of it. When really, I love this, like, beautiful, grassy incline. It looks really lovely, and Kanan's a coward. How surprising. It is a pretty nice mountain. Also, you could probably safely bet that this mountain is far safer than the one we climbed earlier, in which everything would have killed us. We'd probably have a bit of a better chance there now, but of course the enemies are still just a little bit too tough. Anyway, yeah, though, this is what the dungeon actually looks like. It's just a really generic cave. So we've got bandits. They're really not too terribly tough, a bit high on attack power. But other than that, they're fairly standard. Can't attack anyone in your back row because they're short, range dudes. And they don't have much health either. Just a couple. Ooh! Did manage to get the first enemy counter I think we've seen. That being said, we did Mudabana that asshole, so there goes that guy. Thank you, Borun. And that takes care of that. So yeah, enemies aren't too varied. There's actually a recolor of an enemy we haven't seen. Well, you haven't seen. I've seen it plenty of times. We'll be saying that in a minute, but yeah, there's actually a slightly tougher version of an enemy that will wipe the floor with Mir and Ted if they're alone. Let me tell you, you don't want to fight those guys. So, is an enemy gonna come up, or do I get time to talk about dungeons and Suikoden? Oh, I think the next enemy is actually a fairly large group. Here's a dead end. Alright, so, of course, right as I start talking. So, soldier ants really aren't too tough. They've got a slightly higher attack power than you would expect, but honestly their biggest advantage is that they're fast and they come in a large group, so they're probably gonna get most of their attacks off before you. It's just Mir, Cleo, and Ted are fairly fast. I don't think Remyo's speed is too low, but Pon is definitely a fairly slow dude. So even if these enemies weren't fast, he'd probably still go last. Anyway though, dungeon design is not one of Suikoden's strong points, unfortunately. It's usually like standard fare, kind of ordinary dungeons like caves or mountains or whatever that don't have the most interesting tile sets. And of course, I talk a lot about like aesthetic design all the time because that's an important thing to me, but like a good-looking area does make a world of difference. Like, if this were at the very least an interesting-looking cave, I would be a little more accepting of it, even if the layout isn't the best. Suikoden dungeons are generally a little more maze-like, a lot of dead ends or a lot of just paths to get treasure, but nothing too terribly interesting. Here are black wild boars. Those, of course, are recolors of just normal wild boars, which are very tough and, again, will just completely decimate Mir and Ted if they're on their own. Honestly, though, they still have some pretty good defense HP and attack. Like, oh, we dodged them. Okay, so apparently they don't have the best accuracy. They do, however, do a fair bit of damage. Thankfully, though, at this point in the game, they shouldn't one-shot you. The previous versions of the boar enemies, however, will one-shot Mir and Ted earlier on. So, yeah, that's why you don't want to get into fights on the world map that early. Anyway, though, yeah, dungeon design isn't amazing. I forget if 3 and 4 add, like, depth, as in, like, actual raised and lowered fields. I'm not remembering words at the moment. Oh, yep, there's the escape talisman, but yeah, of course, these dungeons are fairly flat for the most part. I mean, the mountains do try to do something with depth, but even then they're still about it, so yeah, both aesthetic and layout-wise, Suikoden stages, or dungeons rather, are just, they're kind of meh. I haven't seen Suikoden 5, but yeah, wonder what the boss of this area is going to be. But yeah, I haven't seen Suikoden 5 much at all, so I don't know much about that, but I can't imagine it would be much difference. Anyway, here we have a boss. This is Queen Ants. Also, I love how the soldier ants are just like these goofy little cartoon soldiery ants, and then in the back we just have just a gigantic ant with a lady sticking out of it. So yeah, for the most part, Queen Ant is going to be summoning more ant soldiers, but they also just get summoned on their own at the end of the turn. And of course, considering we only did 1 damage to her, I do not foresee this going very well. That being said, Queen Ant has a very tough attack. It's a party attack that will hit everyone for a lot of damage, which is why I'm going to be keeping up with healing. Now, she can use it at any point, and I did actually have to redo this fight because I didn't keep up with healing at one point, so I just kind of got dropped. I actually did get kind of lucky here because she didn't really do much of anything until now. Yeah, she can kind of just open up a pit to hell, and that really hurts. And considering that we don't have any sort of, like, party healing spell or anything like that, yeah, that really hurt us. You weren't even in that fight. You don't know what it was like in that hell pit, Kanan. You weren't there, man. I'm gonna punch that ant, but like, really hard. Ted, did you just fucking send that ant to hell? Yeah, agreed. Okay, so, fairly certain that's the power of Ted's room, then. Alright, well, I can see why he doesn't really want to use that thing, considering he just obliterated that ant lady. I can hear you talking to yourself, Kanan. Kanan, you're standing an inch behind me. Just because you have your back to me doesn't mean I don't know you're there. Alright, so anyway, this dungeon does go on a little bit further, and I do like this little detail how now we have all these little log pillars here, which indicate that we're getting close to some sort of base, because they've actually constructed something. So this right here is a save crystal. You can use it to save. That's what it's for. I won't be using it at the moment, though, so yeah, let's just make sure everyone is not dying after that last attack. Trust me, you are going to want to heal. And we're going to go up, and looky that. Considering we're at the summit, I'd have to guess that you are the bandits. Yeah, he's gonna sick us on you. I do like that Varkas has a cool nickname. That is also a lot like Water Margin, in that basically every character has a nickname. I would hazard a guess and say like 95% of them have some sort of nickname. Thank you, Cleo. Yeah, we're really tough. And trust me, when Kanan is sniveling and hiding in the background, oh, you're gonna feel so sorry. Well, actually, no, you won't. Yeah, imagine that. Bandits are actually serious about keeping the money they stole. Who would have guessed? So before we fight the boss, we do have to deal with some more bandits. However, these guys have bow wielders in the back, meaning they can potentially hit Cleo and Ted. We're not gonna let them, though, because they don't have a lot of HP. And for some reason, I didn't aim for the guy in the back, but whatever. He aimed for Mir, didn't hit anyway, and now he's completely exposed, so yeah, easy fight. I don't know if the bow-wielding bandits actually appear in normal battles in this dungeon, but I didn't see them, so I'm gonna say they probably don't. The soldier ants seem to be the group enemies of the dungeon. Thankfully, we only have to fight one wave of enemies before fighting Varkas and Sidonia, our next bosses. Don't worry, we can actually beat them. Varkas has 220 HP, Sidonia has 140. You're going to want to take Sidonia out first, because he hurts. So yeah, let's just make sure to heal up, because he's going to do that. That was a fucking crit, I think? It did zoom in. At the very least, though, yeah, Sidonia can teleport, and he punches very hard. Oof. Varkas ain't no slouch either. Thankfully, they don't have any particularly special abilities, so they shouldn't do too much damage other than that. They just happen to hit the same man, so Gremio is very close to death. That being said, though, yeah, I would suggest, of course, leaving the fire rune until this boss. You don't need it against enemies, and you definitely don't want to waste it against the Queen Ants, because you're not going to do much to her anyway. And we're gonna fucking aura this motherfucker to death. And we're done. See? Easy enough. It is a little bit tough because they tag team it, but just make sure to focus on one enemy at a time. They don't have that much HP, Sidonia especially, so they should go down really easily. I did one round to the both of them. Took 2 rounds overall, 1 for each of them. Oh, shut up, Kanan. Looks like the day is saved, but you didn't do anything. And then Kanan withdrew. And this is why we don't need the escape talisman. I guess the one in this dungeon is just here as an emergency in case you run low on HP or happen to use up your spell slots earlier than the boss. That being said, though, it really isn't a tough dungeon. I did all that without sharpening my weapons. So, yeah, no added attack power. I'm at base strength for everybody. Base weapon strength for everybody. Obviously, they've gained strength from leveling up, but whatever. So, we've returned to Rockland. We should take a quick nap just because I would like the HP and MP back. Which would be nice. Plus, we got a fair bit of cash on us, so it's not like we're gonna be hurting after spending our money. Hey, what the hell is this? Well, literally kicking his ass isn't gonna help. So we've got a choice on whether or not to intervene, and you better fucking believe I'm not putting up with this shit. Okay, so that soldier to the right has a crossbow, so we can attack characters in the back. Who cares? We're gonna beat the crap out of these guys. There are suddenly 3 of them. I guess the last dude just grappled in from the sky, but whatever. Oh, he didn't even bother going after anyone he might have been effective against. He just went after the guy with a lot of HP. Hey, let me shoot the muscular one. That's gonna help. Alright, that's all taken care of. So, his boots were ruined, but they did just take away the benefits of my nap. Not everyone is at full HP, so let me tell ya, I think I suffered more. This kid doesn't say anything new, though. I'm glad he's not more traumatized than he normally is, apparently. It's a relief that he's not more scarred for life. You didn't go off and grind at all. Which dungeon where? Oh, well, there they go. Goodbye! Ah, well, that's a great way to phrase it. Oh, look, 10,000 bits. You know, normally I'd be mad about this, but, like, you do realize I made far more than just 10,000 bits from that shell game, right? I'm actually quite a fair bit more rich. So I guess the moral of the story is, taxes aren't that important. If you want to make money, you should just gamble with some kid in the streets. Because he has limitless money and can lose a lot. Alright, so anyway, yeah, this is the normal-ass wild boar and a couple of crows. Again, a party which would wipe the floor if there were just 2 people here. But we're far beyond that, I say, as 2 characters miss the crow. I mean, it doesn't have much attack power, it's just very evasive. That's all it's got going for it. Alright, and that is the last battle of the episode. Yeah, that's right, the least interesting one. Look, I didn't get into any fights between Gregminster and Rockland or Rockland and Mount Saifu. I'm counting myself lucky. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Yep, and I'm sure we'll be yelled at tomorrow. Oh, you didn't do anything. Kanan told me he was a shining hero that punched the bandits until they died and spit out money. And you just cowered there in fear all the time. That being said, Pon's the only glory hog here, so I guess we'll put up with it. I'm not happy, but whatever. Oh, nothing much, just about that portal to hell you created. I think my superiors would find that interesting. No, actually, you're just coming for tea. Yes, definitely. So if you want, you can go rest up and save, but I think we're just gonna go right home. Next time on Suikoden, we're just gonna have a nice meal and go to bed and wake up tomorrow for another job.